Welcome to Lotus Me Bloom podcast. This is your host, Madison Ansel, and this podcast is all about spirituality, self-development, things I've learned, and so much more. If you're into that stuff, then you found the right podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to today's episode. So for my YouTube listeners, you might notice something a little different today. I have an actual setup and you're seeing me talking and in person. As before, it was just audio. So if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, yes, I now have a video podcast. My podcast has always been on YouTube, just the audio version. My very first 2 episodes were actually recorded and you see me talking, but it was like in my room and I wanted an actual setup. So since last week was the last week of me doing Reiki for a while, but please just bear with me. I am still trying to figure all of this out, like with lighting, and also I want a new mic and a new mic stand, and I'm having some resistance because I'm not used to looking at the camera. I usually have my big headphones on, and I just feel like I look too goofy to be wearing them in the video, so I'm trying not to. But I'm just not used to like looking at the camera. So if I'm like looking elsewhere, I apologize. Also, I'm just having a lot of resistance. Like literally just 5 seconds ago, my mic fell over, my lamp fell over. So this is the type of resistance that I talk about in, what is it? What episode is it? I think it's the tower moment, tower card episode, where I talk about resistance, as not all resistance is bad. I'm taking this as good resistance because I notice like in my life when there are things I really don't want to do and I have resistance to it, it's because I need to do them, or that there's some outside energy that just really doesn't want me to like be in my power and, achieve the things I want to achieve because they are just working against me. So like that's why I feel like there can be good resistance. Like it's like, yes, this is your answer, this is your confirmation that like this is meant to happen, because I feel like not everything comes easy, especially when you're working towards something that's a bigger accomplishment for you or whatever the case is. I feel like you have more resistance towards those bigger things, like those bigger goals, because it's meant for you. And so I don't always feel that resistance is bad. But there is resistance where it's like, it's just like not in your heart and like you don't want to do it anymore type of resistance. And you keep trying to push against that, where that's where I was with Reiki. Like I kept trying to push against it. And I know that it was supposed to be done with a while back. Does that make sense? Like I'm having a really hard time like talking today. Like this probably isn't the best time to record an episode. But basically what I'm trying to say is that there is good resistance. And to know the difference is to know yourself. And that was my last episode, is knowing yourself and trusting yourself. And I feel like when you have that really good relationship with yourself, you do know. Yes, I get frustrated. Like I was getting frustrated earlier, like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't record this episode. I shouldn't record this podcast. But sometimes, like I said, I feel like there are negative energies, whether it's coming from actual people or just like whatever spiritual realm, that don't want us to be in our power. So it's going to, fuck up everything that we're doing. And I feel like when we could push past that, it's like, yeah, bitch, I'm fucking here. I'm still going to do it. And like, you can't tell me shit type of energy. So today's episode is what to do if you're unhappy. What are some signs, and also how to navigate that and how to make changes and to try to get out of that rut that you may feel like you're in. And I understand that there are different levels of unhappiness. Like there's that level of just like deep despair and like depression. And then there's just that, I'm happy with my life. I'm just not happy doing what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Like I know that there's different levels to it. Like, and I've been on every level. I've been to a point where I was very unhappy, period. Like, unhappy with my life, hopeless, all of that. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I definitely want to talk more about mental health and have like a whole episode on that. It's just, a deep subject, and I don't know how much I want to share about, my personal journey, just because it is a vulnerable thing and it is a lot to put yourself out there, and I'm trying. But also, it's hard to talk about. It's like a hard subject to even listen about, So, anyways, so let's just get right into it. I don't want this to be a super long episode, but let me know if you like the longer episodes, because I always say I don't want it to be a long episode and then I end up talking like nonstop and then I go off little tangents. So I'm sorry. Anyways, so I just want to first say that if you're unhappy, it's normal. Like, I feel like we all go through different parts in our life where we aren't happy. Whether, like I said, if that's a very extreme or just like this, kind of, like just not satisfied type of feeling, it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with you. I just want to say that because it's so normal to not be happy with like where we're at in life. And, to navigate that can be difficult, but I just want to say it is normal. And also, I just really, really want to get across that like being unhappy is a huge indicator of what needs to change in our life. Like, if you're not happy or you're unsatisfied, that is a huge like way for you to dive deeper into yourself. Because first of all, life's too fucking short to be unhappy and doing things that we don't want to do. And I had to learn that after lots of years of being absolutely fucking miserable. And so now, like with my life, I do, maybe favor free time over working all the time. And I do say it's because I have been at a very low point in my life and I don't want to do anything that, takes away my happiness. And I'm not saying like I'm always happy. I'm not, like, definitely not. There's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? How can I change? How can I get better? And that's why I think that if you even have these feelings, that is like your number one sign of just being like, okay, let's sit with this. I'm unhappy. Where am I unhappy in? Is it like a category of like, oh, I'm unhappy at work? Am I unhappy with life in general and like all areas of my life? Am I unhappy in a relationship? Like, what is it? And most of the time we can depict where we're unhappy because it's very obvious. Like, for us as humans, I feel like it's so much easier to focus on the negative than the positive. Like, it's so in your face all the time, like that negative feeling of like, oh my God, I have to go to this job that I absolutely hate. And instead of like, us waking up, be like, oh, we have a house and we have, all the things that we're grateful for, but it's just that one thing just weighs so much heavier. And it is hard because a lot of the time when we are unhappy and we're not living the life we want to live, it's because we're out of alignment somewhere. So maybe it is the job, maybe it is the relationship, but being unhappy is a huge indicator and a hello, as my teacher would always say, it's a hello to where we need to look further into ourself and just to start to get clear on the things we do want and where is it that we can eliminate the things that we don't want or we don't want to keep going on and on with, that we don't have to. So I'm going to get more into this. So when I was very depressed in my younger years, early 20s and honestly, I mean, I don't want to get too far into like my like mental health like journey, but I was pretty depressed like through high school. I definitely had some symptoms in like middle school, but it didn't really get worse until high school. So I felt like at my age too that there was nothing in my control of like things I could change. Like the things I wanted, I felt like were so out of reach for me. And there were things that I could have done to make my situation better. But for me, I felt like everything was out of my control. And I'm not talking about like, parents or anything like that. It's just like in my head of like, oh, I'm doing this sport that I don't actually like doing, but I feel like I need to because I've been doing it for the last like 2-3 years. Like just stuff like that. That wasn't the obviously cause of my depression, but it wasn't fueling my happiness is what I'm trying to say. So instead of, sitting with that and being like, where can I cut back and bringing my power back to myself, I played victim a lot. And even out of high school, like I felt victim to my circumstances. I just felt like I threw in the towel. This is it. This is my life. I have to deal with it. And I think a lot of that comes from limiting beliefs as well and from other people. We're told at a very young age, like, this is life. This is how it works. You can't do this. You can't make money and be happy. Like, you need to pick and choose. And for someone like me who was very, very creative, like, that was always me. I always wanted to create, no matter what it was. I knew I didn't want a normal job. I didn't want to go to college, honestly. Like, I felt like I had to go to college because I didn't know what else to do. But for me, like, I knew that in my soul, and I feel like for creatives and people who are artists and whatever way you create, I feel like our world is always shitting on us. Like, society is always shitting on us of like, who do you think you are? Like, you can't make money doing that, yada, yada, yada. So, like, I always felt kind of victim to just everything around me. And that's just an example of just like those beliefs of just, keeping you safe. And I feel like when you keep going against what you want at your soul, it's the cause of unhappiness. And so I was putting myself in situations I didn't necessarily want to be in. Like I said, like, I was very creative. I loved acting. So instead of like doing more acting stuff in high school, I did towards the end of like senior year, I actually did take a theater course and I was in a play. And I was in a play out of high school too. But instead of doing those things, it's like I told myself I wasn't able to do those things. I know that some of that stuff is a little like taboo and like, for being in a small town, people don't know where to go for that stuff, like acting classes and everything. And I had to navigate a lot of that stuff by myself out of high school. But that's just like a little example of where I kind of felt like I didn't have control over my life. And I just was victim to everything that was going on. So I definitely feel like there is a mindset, and to try to take your power back is truly what I'm getting at. Like, you do have control over your life, even if you feel like you definitely don't. Like, maybe you are trapped in a job or whatever because you need to pay the bills. I totally get that. And I'm not saying to like quit your job and do something crazy, because I get it. But we can change the things that are in our control. and work towards what it is we want. So I just want to really get across that we are very powerful humans. We don't have to listen to everybody else's opinions, and we don't have to live the life that society is trying to get us to fit in. You know what I'm saying? We always, I feel are trying to fit ourselves in this box of how we should look, how we should do things. And if you are a creative and you don't want to do the normal go to college and get a 9-to-5, that's okay. And if you do have a 9-to-5, that's okay too. I'm not hating on anyone. What I'm always trying to push for is to do what lights you up. So whatever that is for you, if it is your 9-to-5 job, if that truly just makes you so fulfilled, then good for you. I'm so glad you're doing what you're meant to be doing. I just want everyone to go for whatever it is that their heart desires. So I'm never going to say this is the right way, this is the wrong way. But as a creative, as someone who doesn't want a 9-to-5, that isn't as accepted in society because it's not as stable. And if you're not watching the video, I did use air quotations on the stable part. I'm just going to have to keep reminding myself that there are people still listening that can't see my gestures. So I think the number one thing you need to ask yourself when you're feeling these feelings, or if, is why. Why are you unhappy? And you can say, oh, well, I just hate my job. Why do you hate your job? Just keep asking why. Do you hate your job because it's not paying you enough? Do you hate your job because of the people? Do you hate your job because it's totally not what you want to do and you rather, open up your own business? Why do you hate your job? Get really clear on why you are unhappy, because most of the time the answer is what your soul is trying to get you to do. So like I said, when you're starting to feel these feelings, it's a huge indicator that your soul is just trying to communicate with you and trying to get you to go in a different direction. We have these feelings on purpose. It's not just to be inconvenient. It's literally, like I said, a hello to where we need to change things and to get more in alignment with where we want to go. So if you're into manifestation and all that stuff, and you have your goals listed out and you know where you want to go, you're really clear on that, but you're still feeling unhappy, question that. Because sometimes, some things are in alignment for us, and then we are no longer, wanting to do that anymore, and that's okay too, and we want to move on from that. But wherever you're feeling unsatisfied with your life, just really ask why. And that will get you to your answer of, okay, what is it that I can do that isn't in my control? So now let me just touch on something really quick, because I feel there is the actual circumstance happy, and then there's that inner happiness. And I feel when you have the inner happiness, you are just happier overall. Because sometimes when we think about things oh, if I just had this amount of money in my bank account, or if I just had, X, Y, and Z, then I'll be happy. And that's honestly, the biggest downfall when it comes to trying to manifest something. Because honestly, more than likely, just because you have that doesn't mean it's going to satisfy you and make you happy. And also, when you are trying to manifest, that's one of the biggest kind of red flags that you need to do a little bit more inner work on yourself, because you need to be happy with where you're at now to manifest where you want to go. Because it's kind of like that energy of lack, I don't have it, acting as if type of stuff that I talk about a lot. If you aren't happy with where you're at, you're putting that energy out that you don't have what it is that you want. And now I'm not saying you can't be unhappy, okay? You can be very unhappy at a current job while you're working on your goals. You can be unhappy with how you look while you're working on your body. But there's just like a different level of unhappiness that it's like that desperate energy where it's like, well, if I could just get this, then I'll be happy. That's when it comes down to like self-worth stuff. And you're never going to get that externally. So I know that this is getting a little deep, but truly, like, happiness comes from within. Yes, there are things that make us happy. Like, of course, I'd love to have like X amount of money. But if I'm not happy with where I'm at now, like, that's not going to change anything. And I was just listening to an episode of Leo Skepi's podcast, and he was talking about money actually amplifies the unhappiness, because when you have everything but you're so unsatisfied with yourself, like, that's something money can't buy. And I just want to make that clear, because I feel like so many of us get wrapped up in, oh, if this just changed, then I'll be happy. And I know that we can be unhappy but still be happy internally, if that makes sense. I really hope I'm like explaining this well. Like, for example, do I love where I'm at currently in my life? No. There are definitely things that I want to change and I'm working towards. Like, am I living my dream job? No. I have areas in my life that I'm not super satisfied with and I'm super happy with, but I'm still at the core happy. And at a vibrational set point, I'm in the happy, fulfilled range. And you really need to work on that, I feel like, to get you to the next level of happiness, because I feel like that's like the core foundation, and that stems a lot with self-worth and the inner child stuff. And when you don't work on that, it is hard to feel happy ever, I feel like. And I feel like that's definitely more in the range of that despair. But that's okay, because a lot of us need to get there, I feel like, to know what we do want and what does make us happy. Like, sometimes in my personal experience, I've had to hit rock bottom to know like where I don't want to be at. So I definitely feel like if you are just very, very unhappy in all areas of your life and just like at the core, that has a lot to do with, in my opinion, self-worth and maybe some trauma and things you need to deal with. And I highly encourage to find a great therapist in your area to talk about some of that stuff with and try to work through that. Because in another aspect of like when I was talking about when I was really depressed, there was that part of me that, you know, I felt circumstance-wise that everything was out of my control. But there also was a part of me that just felt like I also wasn't worthy of happiness, and I wasn't worthy of those things. Like, I gave up on the sense of those things even happening for me. So like at the same time, yes, I felt like I didn't have control over circumstance stuff, even though I did, like I was playing victim, but I also had this deep unworthiness that I didn't even deserve to try to make those changes for myself. Like, I just felt very, unworthy and not good enough, to the point where it was like I didn't even feel like I could. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you are to that level of like, you just don't even feel worthy of happiness, or you don't feel like happiness is in the cards for you, like you're really down and out, I definitely want to ask yourself why. But also, I feel like that's like a huge indicator to like dive deep into your inner child and look back of like, why do you feel this way? Because most of the time, like if you're feeling that deep sense of unworthiness, it's because something happened that made you feel that way. Like you don't just come out of the womb feeling unworthy. Like there's something that has happened and maybe you are aware of it. And if you are aware of it, you need to try to like work through that. And, you know, like I said, if you are new to the healing journey and all that, definitely try to find someone to help you, like a therapist, go through some of that stuff. Because if you have lots of trauma, I don't encourage you to do that by yourself. But I did most of the time, just because a lot of the therapists I ever worked with just did not help me. I did have one and I really did like her, but then I was like, I can do this on my own. And so I'm just hard-headed. Don't be like me. But I do encourage everyone to do that inner child healing, do the shadow work, and dive deep into where is this coming from? Like, where did this start? At what age did this start? And why? Who said this to me? Who made me feel this way? And just try to rewrite that story for yourself, as hard as it can be. Like, say the affirmations, rewrite it. Like, even just write out everything you think that you are and rewrite it, because most of the time it's a fucking lie. We tell ourselves things all the time that are fucking lies. And you are so worthy. If you feel like you're not, I'm here to tell you that you are. And you are so worthy of happiness. Everyone deserves happiness. And I just want to encourage you all to have that courage to look deep within yourself, because I promise it's worth it and that it pays off. So for me, like I had to work with that deep stuff first. And truly, like when you are doing manifestation work, it's not like one or the other. It's not like, okay, I'm going to work on my deep shit and then I'm going to manifest. Like most of the time it comes up like all together, because when we are trying to manifest, those fears, those old fears, even if you worked on them like years ago, do come up. And sometimes it's just like a test to see like, have we learned? But also it could just be maybe some stuff that we need to work through a little bit more, whatever the case is. I do feel like you can't have one without the other. And so I definitely encourage everyone to do the shadow work, because I think with spirituality being so popular, people just go straight into all the manifestation stuff, and then they wonder why things aren't working out and like aren't coming to fruition, because they're literally sitting on like 50 pounds of trauma or like 50 pounds of like limiting beliefs that, and even self-talk. Like I feel like our words are so powerful. Everyone deserves happiness, like no matter what that is to you. If happiness is just like being in your garden all day and watering your plants and tending to all of that, that's great. Like I think in society, everyone's like, oh, happiness and like satisfaction is when you hit this amount in your bank account and you have the fast cars and all this stuff. Like that's not what happiness is for everyone. And once again, materialistic stuff will never bring you happiness. It definitely can add to your life, like make you happy, definitely. Like one day I'd love to have a boat, but like I'm okay with not having a boat. And so that's what I'm trying to also get at when it comes to manifestation. And I know that like this isn't really about manifestation, but it does play into it. And I know many of you guys that do listen do a lot of manifestation work. So I just want to say like the detachment of I don't need this to happen because I'm already fulfilled and happy at my core is when things do come way faster for us. So when I say like, if you're unhappy, you're probably a little bit out of alignment with whatever it is. And it's just our spirit trying to tell us to like move in a different direction and to sit and be unhappy. It doesn't necessarily mean that our manifestations aren't going to come to us, because definitely you can be unhappy and manifest beautiful things. But if it's something that you have a lot of attachment to, like, once I get this, then I'll be happy, it's never going to come, because you have that hard grip on it. Like I've said earlier about like when we have that kind of lack mentality, when we have that hard grip that like this needs to happen for me to be happy, it puts that energy of like you don't already have it. So yes, do that healing work. And really the healing work, I feel like, is just asking yourself why. Like, why? You want a new car? Why? Is it because you genuinely want a new car and it'll make you happy? Or is it because it'll make you look a certain way? Like, is it actually going to bring you happiness? And I think you should really ask yourself that, because so many people, like I said, just social media, it's like we feel like we need these things to look a certain way, but it's like, is it going to bring us happiness? Is it really going to fulfill us? Or is it just an ego boost? So many people right now, like, especially like my age group, if you're younger on social media, and even like, there's definitely older people that get wrapped up in just what society deems as like right, quotations. I feel like so many people don't know who they are. And I said this in my last episode, and I just think it's really sad that we feel like we need to do or look or be a certain way to feel happy, and that doesn't come from anything externally. And I really just want to make it clear that you have the power to change your life. You are powerful. So my next little tip on, if you are unhappy, if you've gotten really clear on the why, start making the changes that are in your control. But also, before you make these changes, use whatever you're at in your life that might not be where you want to be at. Say you're at a really shitty job. Use whatever is making you unhappy as fuel to push your ass in the direction that you want to go. Currently, I'm doing that. I'm trying my best. I don't always want to get up and do the damn thing. I don't. I know I talk about aligned action a lot, but here's the thing. I just was making a YouTube video on my main page, Madison Ansel. I do like lifestyle vlogs type of stuff, very similar content to my podcast, but I was talking about aligned action and how sometimes we have resistance and we don't want to do the things that would actually change our life. And no matter if that's just like us self-sabotaging or maybe it's outside energy, we need to use that as fuel. And I don't always want to do those things because of that, because of the resistance. But it's like pushing through. And once you push through, it's like you get to that other side of like, okay, I can do this, and when you're learning something new, for example, learning anything new, there's so much resistance of like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is so annoying. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you push it off. But once you get through it, it's like, okay, I got this. I can do this in my sleep. Like, for example, when I started to make candles, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And now I know how, and it's like no big deal. But use wherever you're at in your life that you're unsatisfied as fuel. Use that shit. Because for me, like recently, I've just been getting kind of upset because I'm like, man, I'm not where I want to be. Like, this is not what I want to do with my life. Like, what am I doing? And some days I'm like, oh, I fucking hate everything right now. But I've been trying to remind myself that, okay, that's fine. Well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Let's make some changes. Let's do the things that I have in my control to get me to where I want to go. And so I want to encourage everyone to look around in your life. Maybe you are unhappy in multiple areas of your life. Maybe you're stuck in a marriage and you can't leave because you don't have the money. I understand. What can you do to start making some money? Or maybe you are really unhappy with your job and you want to quit and be a freelance makeup artist, but you can't do that because you can't support yourself yet. Okay, well, maybe you can cut back a couple of days at work and on your days off, do some freelancing. It doesn't have to be this or that. Not everyone can just quit their job and go open up their business. Or if you're working towards maybe being a content creator or an actress or an artist, a music artist, use that free time to work towards those things. If you hate your fucking job, use that shit as fuel to remind yourself, this is not where I want to fucking be for the next 5 years of my life. So just look around you and start making those small changes. If you fucking hate the way you look, but you absolutely hate dieting, maybe you just start going for a walk, every other day. Start moving your body. Or maybe find a healthier choice at your favorite restaurant that you like to go to every Friday. Make those choices so that you don't have to completely upheaval your life, and just get really clear on where do you want to go. If you're unhappy, like I said, it is a clear indication that your soul is just trying to get you to go somewhere different and to remind yourself that you are powerful and that you have a specific reason that you're here. You have a purpose and that you are meant to go far in life and you're meant to do what makes you happy. I truly don't believe in the bullshit that, you're just supposed to make money and pay bills. I understand that is what society is and that's what everyone tells you to do. But yeah, I understand the reality of it. Luckily I still live at home and I know not everyone has that luxury, but I just don't believe that we just need to be these machines that work all the time. I truly believe that we need to find what makes us happy because whatever that is will make us income. So I know not everyone believes that way. I know that's not the popular opinion, but this is where I'm at. I used to be so fucking unhappy. Like I said, I used to be so fucking hopeless at a very fucking young age, teenager. And I went against everything that I loved and who I was at my being, my inner child. I shut that out to please everyone and society, and do the thing that I was supposed to do. And so I was so unhappy for so long that it's no, fuck you. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to risk my happiness to fit in this box of what I'm supposed to do with my life. I just don't believe that that is what we're supposed to do here. I know that's not popular opinion, but that's why I feel the way I do, because I was so unhappy for so long that you can't tell me fucking shit. I will never do that again to myself. I will never go against, I've done things in the past for other people, I did videography for a while. Not that I didn't like it or enjoy it at all. I felt kind of people expected it out of me because in high school, people knew me for doing videos and I did YouTube and I did music videos and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to do it for other people necessarily. So I did felt this pressure from outside people to start a videography business, which didn't last long because I was not satisfied. But I did do wedding videos. And although I loved having that creation for someone of oh my gosh, like, I'm so happy to do this for you. Like, look at how beautiful your day was. I did not enjoy doing it. Like, that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And although I was very good at it and I think I could have been great, it's not what I wanted to do. And I feel like when you just keep sacrificing and like giving up those things that really light you up, like, there's just no point, in my opinion, of life. And like, I know that is so dramatic, but like, why should I like live a life for other people when I did that for so many years and it didn't get me anywhere? So that's where I'm at with it. Like I said, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I'd rather be happy than absolutely fucking miserable, like most people in this life. Sorry, that's just where I'm at with it. So try to make the changes. Use your unhappiness as fuel to light that fire under your ass and get going. Like, you don't have to stay at your 9 to 5. You don't have to be miserable at your fucking job. Don't get me wrong. Do what you got to do. Pay your bills. But when you get home, work on your business. Work on posting a video. A lot of people that are successful, even influencers, they do put in the work. They do post on their days off, from work. They do stay up late editing a video. Like, I'm not saying sacrifice. I'm not saying, don't honor yourself and your self-care and all that stuff. Like I said, I don't like the word sacrifice, but sometimes it's like you just have to do what you have to do. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. And it might not always be easy, but like when you tough it out, then you can quit that fucking job you're miserable at. So use where you're unhappy in your life as fucking fuel. Use it as your fuel. There are times, many, 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 many fucking times in the last couple months where I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to be here right now. Like, I definitely want better for my life. But instead of being upset about it, here's two options, You can sit and be upset about it and play victim and say, what was me? This shit fucking sucks. Like, I fucked up. Where did I go wrong? Or you can choose to be like, okay, I accept this. I accept that I'm unhappy. I accept that this fucking sucks. I accept that this is not where I want to be at. So I'm going to try to do what I can to make it better, or do what I can to get myself out of the situation. So acceptance is huge with your unhappiness. So instead of choosing to dive deeper into the unhappiness and be like, oh, my life just fucking sucks, like there's nothing I can do about this, and maybe there isn't anything you can do about it in this instant. Maybe you really are like signed in at this house that you want to move out of. You're on you're paying rent. Okay, I'm trying to give you an example. You're paying rent on an apartment that you sign like maybe a 2-year lease on, and you fucking hate it. You really want to move the fuck out. So maybe you really can't do anything to change the situation, but instead of choosing to be miserable about it and being more unhappy and fueling that like flame of deep despair, you can change it by accepting, okay, this is where I'm at. Okay, yeah, I have to be here for the next few years. Cool, whatever. Maybe something will come out of this. Maybe someone can like take over for me or something. You never know. Okay, I believe in miracles. So when you accept it and you don't keep fueling that misery and you say, okay, well, what can I do right now? Okay, well, maybe you can drive around neighborhoods and look at houses that you want to buy. Maybe it's storing some extra cash, or maybe it's, making a dream board of your ideal house. Whatever the case is, you can accept the situation for what it is instead of, beating yourself up about, oh my gosh, how did I get in the situation? what could I have done differently? Like some stuff, there's just nothing we can do about it, and it just is what it is. So accept where you're at, accept the circumstances, accept that you're unhappy. And I think when you accept that you're unhappy, like that's the next step into getting yourself out of that feeling. So even if you are in deep despair, like you really hate every aspect of your life, you can sit and accept, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And I know that this isn't normal. I know that this isn't right. I know that I don't want to be here. But what can I do to change? And so if it is as deep as I'm just really unhappy with my life, what is it that you can start adding in? Maybe you just need to get in touch with that inner child and start doing those things that you used to love doing, like painting or drawing or listening to music or playing your guitar. Get back into who you are. Get to know yourself again. I talked about this in the last episode, but get to know yourself again. Get to know what makes you happy and start doing those things and start saying those affirmations. Start accepting your negative thoughts, but don't let them override you and become your truth. Accept those things. Oh my God, when I did this, guys, like I swear, this is when I started like my mental health depression journey. Like I started just going up. Like from when this point of acceptance of I'm accepting my negative thoughts, they are just there. They're not my truth. I'm not going to dive deeper into them. I'm just going to let them be there. It was when everything started to, I'm not saying get better. I still had like a long journey ahead, but I just started to accelerate. It was like that point that I decided that I was just going to accept and try to change. That is when things started to just get better. It was like a huge shift in my life, like a huge, I don't know, a very powerful moment of accepting the negative thoughts and letting them be there, but trying to counteract them and be like, well, I am worthy. I am worthy of happiness. I do deserve happiness. So acceptance is huge. And honestly, on like the vibrational set point, if you want to get like spiritual into it, like acceptance is like one of the higher, it's not as high, but it's like the next higher like level than like desperation and depression and anxiety. So when you get to that point, that's what I'm saying too, is like, I just rose up like vibrationally. Like I was no longer at this like really low. So just accept where you're at. Accept maybe you hate your fucking job, but I'm going to, come home and start posting more on TikTok or whatever the case is. Like I'm going to post more about my business. I'm going to make more candles or whatever. Like I'm just pulling from, my own personal experiences, but just accept it and use it as fuel and get real clear on where you want to go and why you want to go there, and make sure you know why you want to go there. It's not for other people's validation or other people's wants and needs. It needs to be from your heart. It needs to be what fuels you. It needs to be what your soul is trying to communicate with you. So maybe meditate on it. Get clear. Like do the things that you want to do, not what everyone else wants you to do. Because honestly, you will never be happy then. You will never be happy if you're constantly trying to satisfy other people and live for other people. You have to live for yourself. You have to live and fuel that heart's desire, whatever it is for you. And it might be something as so simple as, having your own garden in your backyard. If that is what makes you happy and lights you up, go for it. Like, it's truly sad because there are people that are just really unhappy that they can't have their own garden. And they just feel like they can't have it because they don't feel worthy of it, or like just so small things like that. And so that's why I always just encourage to try to do the healing work as well. and to get to the root of like why you feel the way you feel, and to not beat yourself up through the whole process either. Like, it is so normal to feel this way. Like, literally everyone has felt this way at some point. Everyone is unhappy at some point, and everyone's very happy at some point. Whether it's just like for a short amount of time, you have been happy before. So that's honestly what I want to get at. I don't want to keep dragging this out because I feel like my point has been made. Use the shit as fuel. Use your fucking shitty ass circumstances as fuel to get you to where you want to go. And just keep living your truth and make the changes you want to make. Like, it doesn't have to be something so drastic. You can start off so small. Like, maybe it is you want to lose weight, but right now you're not ready to fix your diet. Like I said, just maybe start walking or just doing something like drinking more water every day. Like, it doesn't have to be this overnight process either. It doesn't have to be so big. Like, we need to stop, and I'm talking about myself too. We need to stop making things so fucking big. Like, it doesn't have to be so big. It could be just a little change. It doesn't have to be so drastic and hard. I feel like us making things like bigger than what they are, like, it just complicates shit. Like, can we just not? I'm talking about myself. I think way entirely too much about everything. That's my problem. Anyways, I hope this found you well. I hope this message helps anyone that needs it and just reminds everyone that you are fucking worthy of happiness and you are worthy of fucking everything you desire. And if you're unhappy, it's okay. And to just accept it, and it's just a message. That's all it is. Like I said, I've felt this way many times over the last year, and I've resisted it. And the more you resist that feeling, it just prolongs the whole situation. Like, especially if you're trying to manifest something, like, just stop getting in your own way. Okay. Like, you just need to listen to yourself if you're hard-headed like me, and stop ignoring the damn signs, and just stop that shit. Like, stop living for other people. Okay. I know it's hard to do sometimes, so I understand. But if you guys enjoyed today's episode, please let me know. I would love if you could leave me a 5-star review on Apple. I don't know if Spotify has reviews. If so, love that too. If you're watching on YouTube, hi, let me know if you liked this setup, if there's anything I can do different. If you enjoyed today's episode, let me know in the comments. What did you take away from this episode, and so on. So if you guys want to find me, all my social medias are at Madison Ansel. That's my personal. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. My YouTube channel is more of like lifestyle, spirituality, self-development type of stuff, just like the podcast, but more like lifestyle. So if you're into that, check out my other YouTube. And then Lotus Me Bloom, I do sell candles like this one right here. You can't see it, obviously, if you're not watching, but this is one of my zodiac candles. It says Libra. And I also sell crystals and all that good stuff. So my website is lotusmebloom.com, and my handles for everything is at Lotus Me Bloom. But other than that, I will see you, or you will hear me in the next episode. I hope you all have a great week. I send you all so much love, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.